Okay, so I'm getting a lot of emails and requests around how do I build these web apps, right? So this thing that you've seen with PancakeSwap and Uniswap and even crypto wizards, etc. How am I connecting the back end with this front end, or how am I building these apps? And I thought, what would be a really cool video to do for you is to do like a bootstrap, no nonsense, straight to the point video, which is really quick, where you can learn some of the fundamentals of how this stuff works so that you know what to Google. The reality is it doesn't matter how many courses you do, you're going to spend most of your time on Google anyway. And actually the best way to learn is by consistently building projects, right? And I love it. I find coding actually very addictive, and I'm happy it is because I enjoy doing it. So I want to, just get you started here with what I would recommend is a really good place to start, and that is to download Node.js. Once you've downloaded Node.js, you're going to have access to run things like React or Angular or Vue.js. And actually, we're going to use Vue.js. We're not going to use Svelte because Svelte is, it's highly recommended. People love it. But the problem is you're really more learning Svelte than you are JavaScript. So I think, if you're starting out learning this stuff, Vue.js is absolutely brilliant, like brilliant. And in fact, we're going to use something called Nuxt, right? Nuxt is basically, it uses Vue.js, but it allows you to do what's called server-side rendering. So don't get worried about what all of that means. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you can see it working, you can see how to build an app. And I'm going to do that with you right now. And the good news is it's easier than you think. You absolutely will struggle, and you will have head-banging moments where you're like, why is this not working? It's just part of the journey. Just enjoy it. So here we are. We've got Node.js. Download Node. If you can't download Node or you're not sure how, watch a video. There's so many of them out there. So I don't want to take up your time on that, but download Node. The next thing you need is you need an IDE. So, something like VS Code. I'm going to recommend VS Code for now. It doesn't matter if you're on Mac or Windows. I'm using Mac because I'm using this M1 chip for video editing. And bang for buck, it just blows everything out the water right now. But I love Windows as well. So, I'm really agnostic when it comes to those things. Or let me call it platform agnostic, I think is probably the word. I don't know. Now, go to your terminal, right? So if you don't know where that is, Command and space, or on a Windows, I think it's just called Command. You can search for it. And it'll show you what folder you're in. I'm going to create something on my desktop. So I'm just going to cd space into desktop. This is a lot like the MS-DOS days. So for anyone watching this who's like, wow, okay, now this is super geeky because we're using command line. Well, yeah, and it's cool. So let's use command line because it feels like we're programming in the matrix, right? Let's make it fun. So you want to cd space into desktop, and let's create a directory. So this is all after you've installed Node. Okay, we're going to create a directory, and I'm going to call it makedir. And this is the same thing as going to desktop, right-clicking, and going new folder. By the way, makedir is doing the same thing, except we're doing it from here. And I'm just going to call it test project. Okay, so make directory for test project. Now your project might be a Uniswap project or whatever. Call it makedir Uniswap, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to cd space into that folder, so test project. So now what I want to do, now that I'm in this test project folder, and if you're using Windows, your command line will look slightly different. It's fine. Doesn't matter what command line you're using. But now what I want to do is I want to install something called Nuxt. Nuxt is the same as Vue.js, except in my opinion, it's better. And I love it. So we're going to use that. And so the way to do that is we go npm init, and I'm going to call this Nuxt app. And by the way, when I say it's the same as Vue.js, I literally mean it is Vue.js. Nuxt JS is pretty much Vue.js. It's the same thing, except it allows you to do other stuff, and it handles routing and pages much more intuitively. And I actually think it's an easier way to learn front-end app development than it is starting with Vue. Even though you use Vue in Nuxt, you will learn Vue anyway. So just, and if you're learning React, which I'm learning React at the moment, or at least embarking on this journey, I studied it before, but I want to build an app on it, which I'm going to talk to you about in another video. But, React has something called Next JS, right? So React has Next JS. Vue has Nuxt JS. And so what we're going to do is create this Nuxt app. So you go npm init Nuxt app and give your app a name. So, this could be something to do with the stock market. So let's call it, I don't know, stocks or Uniswap, whatever you want to call it. And so it says, is it okay to proceed? Y for yes, enter. And now it's going to install Nuxt for us. So this is really cool. It says, what do you want to name the project? Do you want to name it stocks? Just hit enter if you want to leave it the same. JavaScript package manager, go with NPM. You could use Yarn. I just know NPM. Maybe I need to, school myself a bit more. And then in terms of UI, I'm going to highly recommend Tailwind CSS. And I've used all these other ones, in terms of CSS, etc., pretty much all of them. And the reason why I love Tailwind is it's low level enough to make tweaks and changes you really just need to make without having to write custom CSS code. If you don't know what CSS for, it stands for Cascade Style Sheet. It's basically how you create the structure and graphic and look and color, etc. of your UI. So here we're going to use Tailwind, and then Axios, and then ESLint, and none. And server-side rendering, for me, this is important. If you're building a single page application, so everything happens all at the same time, right? And it's just a small app, you can use single page app. I'm almost always using server-side rendering. So I recommend to do that. And then here I'm going to go server Node.js, JSON config. What is your GitHub username? I'm not going to put that in right now, but you could. And version control system none. Now, you'll notice I really didn't spend much time talking through what all of these meant, because I don't need to. You're going to learn this stuff anyway, right? If you're building web apps, you're going to have a need and you're going to be like, why doesn't my app do this? And you'll realize, okay, I need server-side rendering. And so you'll go on these Google hunts, right? I'm just telling you what out of the box, for me, works the best. And I don't want people to, be watching this and going, there's all these different things. What's going on? It feels very overwhelming. Just go through it. Just get through it, install it. It doesn't matter. We're just at the installation phase. And actually, the most painful part of any project is the installation phase to begin with, right? Because you have to do all this same repetitive stuff. But now we're able to actually get into this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cd into stocks. And now I'm in the stocks folder. And I'm going to hit what's called npm run build. And this is going to basically build some JavaScript packages, etc., and just get my project folder nicely set up for me. And I'm pretty much done. So what I'm going to do now is go into VS Code or whatever IDE you want to use. You can see I had one here, test project, right? I've already opened a project called test project, by the way. So when you do this, your project won't be here. You'll have to go to File, Open Folder, and select whatever folder you want to use for that. And then here I've got the stocks, right? So here's my stocks folder. This is my app over here. So what we can do here now is we can go, new terminal, and actually have the terminal, instead of operating here separately, if you want to, you can operate directly in VS Code. And so what I want to do here now in test projects is I want to cd space into my stocks folder. So make sure you're in stocks. And I'm going to go npm run dev. And when I do that, it basically builds, all the files, etc. And it's going to tell me that I can now go and actually view my website. So this means I can go and view my website, which is great. And you're like, well, I don't even have a web address. I don't even have a domain, right? You don't need one, because you're going to do this on localhost first, right? I'm not going to go through deploying your website right now. We'll do that as people start requesting it because they're stuck on deployment, right? Right now, we just need to build stuff. And if you're building this stuff for your own personal use, you don't need to deploy it to a website. You don't need to. You can just run it as an app locally. And that's why now, like when I'm doing JavaScript stuff or stuff with the blockchain, I actually build an app for it because I can interact with it easier. You saw me doing that in the prior videos. It wasn't even on Crypto Wizards. I was just building it to learn, to help to interact and see with what's going on more intuitively. So this is a really useful skill you've asked for. So let's go here to Google Chrome. I do recommend Chrome because I find it really good for debugging when you make API requests. And we're going to put in here localhost 3000. So when you do that, you'll see your website. Here it is, Nuxt JS, and it's got all sorts of things going on here that you didn't create, but they come standard out of the box. So what we're going to do is remove all that stuff so that we can do this actually completely from scratch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete the Nuxt logo. I'm going to move that to trash, and you can see here it's regenerating the website each time. So actually, if I go and I refresh this, hasn't done anything. Okay, fair enough. I think I need to save this, so that's okay. Let's delete this tutorial thing as well. and then go over here. Yeah, you'll see the whole page has gone blank, right? We've lost everything. And so that was the components folder. Now I'm going to go to pages and I'm going to look at this index page. And I'm actually going to get rid of all of this, right? I'm going to type everything from scratch, Now, the version of Vue that I'm actually going to be showing you is Vue 2, because that's what I learned. I haven't really moved over to Vue 3 yet. But also, I think it's good to learn Vue 2 anyway, because it teaches you a lot about structure, about how Vue thinks about structure. So it's okay. It doesn't matter. That's what we're going to do. Now, if you've ever done web development before, you'll notice that anytime something says index, it means it'll be the first thing that your browser will render if there's not like a / whatever, right? If there's not a / whatever, it'll render the index page. So that's what we're going to build over here. So the first thing that we need to do is I'm going to put here template, and here I'm going to close that as template. Let me just put that there. And template, what is template? Don't worry about that yet. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in some div tags. And by the way, if you're wondering like how that div just pre-populated for me, do yourself a favor, right? Go and install there's some things you need to install in VS Code actually. So there's some recommended ones, etc. Some of the ones you're going to want to install are going to be, let me just go and find these for you very quickly, installed, right? So here I've got color picker, HTML boilerplate, IntelliSense, Vue, and Vue 3 snippets. So, go down here, type in, for example, Vue, right? And then click install, right? I've got it installed, but just click install. Find whichever one you want and hit install. I've got these two installed. It's fine. I'm sure there's better ones. But do that. And that's how, this is highlighting the way that it's highlighting. And sorry, I should have covered that earlier, but this is Bootstrap brass tacks, like I said, right? So buckle up, we're in for the ride. So now what I want to do is type in, script, and you can manually type this if you haven't done, if you haven't found these boilerplates, etc. And this is where our scripts are going to go. And then there's another area here called style, which I hardly ever use now because I'm using Tailwind a lot, right? Style is where you can put all your CSS. So the way that, Vue is working is it has this template area. This is where we'll write our HTML and interact with JavaScript. You have a scripts area. This is where all our logic is going to go, or most of our logic is going to go. And then you're going to have here your styles, right? So there's so much you can do on Nuxt, right? You can do a whole course on Nuxt, but again, we're just going to do the useful stuff. So let's say what I want to do right now is I have a list of stocks that I want to render out. Okay, let's say I've done the API request. I'm not going to go through APIs on this video, the API request on this video. I think what I'll need to do is a separate video for that, because I think, there's many ways to do that, and it's a very important skill to build. When you're thinking about an app, when you're thinking about an app, you need to think of it like you're fetching data and displaying data. That's what an app is. Pulling data, displaying data. I'm going to show you the displaying data. A lot of you already know how to, build APIs or fetch data. But the important thing here is building the app is about displaying the data and fetching it, right? But the fetching is going to be the same pretty much throughout whatever you do. So displaying the data, that's the art, right? That's the app building that we're going to do here. So, the first thing is you want these div tags between your template. So all your code, you want it between these two, because I'm using Vue 2 and that's a requirement. So everything is going to go inside this div. And let's say, I want a header. So I'm going to put an H1 tag here for a header, and I'm going to call this stocks list. And then here I'm going to go, I'll put in, say, an H3 header. I don't usually use H3 and H1 and all that actually, but, let's put in something like div. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of Tailwind here as well. So here I'm going to call it, something like, here is your list of stocks. Okay, so now if I hit save, you'll see that's rendered there. And if I go here, here's our website, stocks list. Here is your list of stocks. And by the way, I'm using Command and Tab or Alt and Tab if you're on Windows, just to flip between the two screens. If you have two screens, brilliant, because you can code on one and view your changes on the other. Brilliant. That's going to dramatically speed up things for you. So, what you want to do here is you want to list out your stocks, but you're like, Sean, I don't even have a list of stocks here. So come on, let's get this going. Now, this is where things are going to get a bit more interesting. Okay, so over here is where we're going to put our list of stocks. So I'm just going to put a div tag here, and I'm going to, I'm not going to format this like it should be formatted for Vue, because I don't like the suggested formatting for Vue. I format things my way, the way I like to read it. Yes, it might not be best practice, but I don't care. If it doesn't make me happy, I don't want to do it. So we're going to do things my way, I'm afraid. So what we want to do here now is we want to go and actually now get a list of stocks that we're going to actually spit out. Now, instead of building the API, I'm actually going to put the list of stocks here in the code and then have it render out. When you learn how to do the API, it'll fetch that list for you, put it in the code and render it out. But this process works exactly the same. So here I'm going to put here export default, and I'm going to put open bracket, close curly bracket. And here I'm going to call this data as such, and then return. Now I'm not going to explain too much about data and return. Just learn this off by heart. Just learn this off by heart. You've got export default. Everything this app part here is going to do is going to be an export default. Data, this is where we're going to basically declare like our variables. Think of it like that. This is where we're going to say what all our variables are. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to call this stock list. And stock list, I'm going to make that an array, right? So this here is an array. And I want to put in my stocks here, I'm going to put a number of things, right? We're going to put some objects in here, actually. It's going to be an array of objects. I'm going to have this stock, this stock, this stock, etc. This stock. Let's put 4 stocks. And in each object, let's say that, we have a stock name and a price, right? So here I'm going to call this as name. And this stock is going to be called dude. Let's make it serious. Let's make it Apple. And here, this one as well is going to have a name, and I'm going to call that one, let's call it something like Microsoft. And let me see. What stock do we all like? We all like GameStop. So GME, is that right? I probably got the ticker completely wrong, and I'm sorry if I've offended any GameStop fans there. And then Tesla, TSLA, for Tesla, right? So these are our stocks. Those are the names, but now we also want something like a price. So let's put in a price, and the price is going to be, what's the price of Apple? I don't know. We're going to call that 150. And in fact, we don't have to put it in quotes. We can put that as a number. Microsoft, I have no idea what the Microsoft share price is, but I'm just going to put some ridiculous number like it's $1,000, it's $5,000 for a Microsoft, whatever. I have no idea what their share price is. GME, I'm going to put this what I want the share price to be. Oh, sorry, I've overwritten the name. Let's put this as price. I'm going to put this what I want the price to be for GME. And then Tesla, again, I'm going to put the price that I want it to be for Tesla. So let's put it at 10,000. Why not? Why not, Tesla's now tremendously overpriced according to this price valuation I've just given it. So here's our list of stocks. And we're going to add other variables to this as well. But here's our list of stocks. Now I'm going to hit save, and let's see what's actually happened here. So it's saying, okay, there's a problem here. And I'm thinking, okay, what's the problem? Here's the problem. So this actually tells you, ESLint tells you, it's like, you can't do this. Well, because I've just put 5,000. I haven't said what that 5,000 is. It's price. So sorry if that was painful for you to watch, because you're probably like, Sean, I've seen you make that mistake and I was cringing. Welcome to programming. So here's the price. Now I've added the price in there as well. So we needed to add the price on these 2 items. And this is really helpful. It tells you if you've made a mistake. Let's go back here. I'm going to refresh the page and you'll see there's nothing that's changed, right? Absolutely nothing. So what I want to do now is I want to go back here and I want to now render out this list of stocks. So let me show you something quite interesting, actually. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put these 2 open bracket curly brackets. Whenever you have this open bracket curly bracket open and close, and you've got 2 of them, what it means is I want to access all this stuff down here, right? So I want to display whatever I've put down here in my JavaScript. So this is all my JavaScript going on. This is my HTML going on. But you can bring your HTML, you can bring your JavaScript into your HTML. And this is it. This is the magic, right? This is the cool stuff. This is what makes it interactive. So here I'm going to call this stock list because I want to display the whole stock list. I'm going to hit save and I'm going to come back here. Now you can see, here's my stock list, right? So I've got it all here. And now you're going to say, well, Sean, you know, that looks absolutely terrible. It looks really bad. So I'm like, yeah, it does look bad. And this is why you want to learn Tailwind. If you're going to spend your time learning anything, and because if you want your UI to look good, learn Tailwind. Like learn CSS, learn Tailwind. That's what the look of your website is. Here, I'm just going to show you the function and then we're going to add the look to it. So what I want to do here is I actually want to get rid of this and I want to display the stocks, you know, one under the other. I want the name and the price. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a for loop. If you don't know what a for loop is, don't worry. Like I can do videos on this, but also I'm building a course showing you how to build triangular arbitrage in Python, JavaScript, etc. I'd actually like to show you the course content I'm thinking of doing. So if you want to see that ahead of time and give feedback, just put content exclamation marks in the comments. And then I will know, okay, I need to show you like my brainstorming around that. But for those of you who know programming, you can apply your for loop knowledge here. So we're using Vue, so it's v for is the syntax. And then we put, you know, our v for loop in here. So what we're going to say is, I'm going to say, you know, v for stock. You could call this pink elephant or orange monkey. So v for stock in stock list, right? So that's what we want to use it for. Now, I'm actually going to show you to do something most people don't show you when you're doing this. Also put index. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to put in a key. So we're going to put in these two things here. This means I'm basically binding something. You don't need to worry about that right now because this is Bootstrap. Put in key and then put here in index. Okay. So now when I hit save, watch what happens when I hit save, right? And I come here, nothing. So you're like, okay, well, it's good. It's all running, but nothing's happening. Well, because I've not told it what to put inside my div tag. If you don't know HTML, by the way, definitely just look at a 5-minute video on HTML. It's really easy to learn, like super easy. You can learn HTML in a day. My son asked me once for some extra money. I said, if you build a website for me with HTML, you can have some extra money for this. And he did it in a day, I promise you. So, you know, you can learn HTML. And what we want to do here now is display the stock information. So what I'm going to do here is put my, you know, open bracket, close curly brackets, because now I'm accessing this information down here. Here I access this through using the v-for. That's how it knew to enable me to access those. But I'm going to put stock. Let's just start with stock, right? So, because it's v for stock. So what it's saying is call this object a stock. Call this object a stock, right? Call this object a stock. So v for stock is saying for each one of these objects in this array, so each one of these stocks in the stock list, spit out the stock, right? Let's go back here. There you go. So now it's spitting that out. Well, actually, I don't want it to look like this. I just want, you know, the name Apple, and I want it to say name. So I'm just going to call this something like, you know, name, and I'm going to call it stock dot name. So the dot allows me to access name or price. It allows me to go into that object. If I had name and then another object within name, I would go name dot whatever that other object is. So you can go stock dot name dot 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 dot. You can just keep going. But I've only got one layer here of objects, so I'm just going to go stock dot name and I'm going to hit save, and you'll see here name Apple, name Microsoft, name GME. Great. So by the way, if you've got this far, pat on the back, because right now you've been able to go from just knowing some, programming in JavaScript or whatever to actually being able to display whatever you want, right? If you've written something in Python and you have an API request to go and fetch that information in Python, right? You built that somewhere else and brings the data back here, you now know how to display it. So this might look like it's like, oh, you know, this is nothing. This is everything. This is how you do everything. This is how it all works. So you're actually learning a lot more than you think by doing this. So this is really good. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want not only the name, right? I also want the price. So here we're going to learn some Tailwind as well. And the way we're going to do this is I'm actually going to get rid of this and I'm going to retype it in a minute. I'm going to put another div tag in here, and I'm going to put in a class, and we're going to use some Tailwind. We're going to use something called flex, and I want everything in a row. I want the name and the price. I want them on the same row. So I'm going to call this a flex row. And what this means is anything within this div tag is going to be on the same row. And so now I'm going to put div again. And within this div, I'm going to put in here name. And I'm going to call it stock.name. So name. And here I'm going to go stock.name. And then here I'm going to go price. And I'm going to call this stock.price. And if I hit save and I come back here, you can see it's put price next to name. And now you'll be thinking, well, that still looks rubbish, Sean. Like, come on, man. Like, you know, it's all great. Yeah, you've got an app, but it looks terrible. Let's make it look better. Well, now you need to use CSS. And so we're going to use Tailwind CSS to do that. We're going to continue building on this. So the first thing I want to do here with this flex row is I'm going to put something called justify center. Justify center is going to put everything in the middle. And you'll notice my stocks list over here, etc., is also, you know, it's all the way on the left. I'm going to put a class in here, and I'm going to call it container, number 1. And what that does is it just puts like, it puts like everything in a web page like container. And I'm going to put mx auto. And now you can see that what it's done is it's given it a container and it's put that container in the middle. If I give it a color, I'm going to call this background green 1, just so you can see. And this is very useful when you're learning Tailwind, right? When you want to see how things are working, this is very useful. The best advice I can give to you for learning how Tailwind and CSS works and how to structure things is think of everything in boxes. Right? I am not a CSS expert, right? I'm at best an indie developer at everything. Like I just know the basics of what gets me what I need. So, you know, I think of everything in boxes, right? This is a box. The stocks list is a box, right? So if I go here to stocks list, let's give that a class. Let's also give that a background. I'm going to call it background red 100. So now the stock list, you can see that's the box. That's how it's seeing the website, right? I'm going to give this, here is your list of stocks. I'm going to give that a color as well. We're going to call that background, you know, indigo 100. And that's now done that. You can see it's the same. It's the same. And then down here in our, you know, in our for loop over here, I'm going to give this a class as well. And I'm going to call this, you know, background gray 100. So when I'm building these things, when you get good at this, like you literally can see the boxes in your head. You can see what's going on. You know, when I'm seeing div code, it's like I'm in the matrix. It's like I'm reading the matrix, right? You're in the div code. You're actually seeing the boxes in your mind because you've done this so much. But what I recommend you do is, and I do it all the time, like if I get stuck on something and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, I give the box a color. And so here for this row that is looping through here, right? So for each one of these stocks, it's printing out this structure, right? So let's put in this row and let's give it, you know, a background of, I don't know, yellow. And let's see how that's looking. Now, the 100, by the way, is the strength of that color. So if I put in like 700, it's like dark yellow. In fact, it looks orange. So you can see the gray disappeared because this is like overlapping that. But now let's say I want to give this like a maximum width, and I'm going to give it a width of, you know, I don't know, 1/3 of the size of the container it's in, right? So now this is 1/3 of that container. Here it is. So that's how that's working there. So we've got this justify center. If I put like justify around, you'll see it works very differently. Now what it's doing is it's put space on the left, space in the middle, and space on the right. So that's what justify around does. You can also do justify between. So justify between will push everything, right, as far as it can go. And if there were 3, for example, if I put in the stock price again, or some other, you know, object, now it's spacing everything evenly. So let me just undo that over here, and there we go. So now I've got name, Apple, etc. So what I want to do here with everything is I'm actually going to put text center, just because I want everything in the middle. So those 2 things are now in the middle. And this is justified between, and it's width 1/3. So not everything here is in the middle. right? It's just, that's not how it's working. And in fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go, I think, MX auto. What that means is it means automatically space everything. So in reality, when you're doing this, when you're learning this stuff, I'm like now, I promise you now, I am struggling with centering things the way I want them in that. And it just comes with practice. Actually, the majority of front-end development is all about like how you are styling things, right? In terms of like the look. The look is what takes time. Writing functions in JavaScript, a lot of you already know how to do that. But you wanted to know the app side. This is the app side, right? This is how I'm getting it to look and function, etc. Great. So now we've got all of this going on, which is, you know, fantastic. It's really good. What I want to do now is I want to create a button that changes, it adds a stock. So what I'm going to do is I now want to create something that adds some stocks. And so what I'm going to do actually, I think the best way I'm going to show you this is I'm just going to put in here an input. I'm going to put type is equal to text. And I'm going to put class, so because I want to do some styling for this, and this again is using Tailwind syntax. I'm going to put, you know, padding y2, this is like, and padding x4. And let's just have a look and see what that looks like, right? So I'm going to have my input box here. Here it is. And, you know, you can see my background has actually come out green, and that's because it's part of this container. You can see this input is part of this container. So having these backgrounds is really useful for me to see what's going on. The other thing I'm going to do with all of these is I'm going to add some margin top to them. So this stock list, I'm going to put margin top 16. And this margin pushes it away from its previous tag, right? It pushes it away. The stock list here is your list of stocks. I'm going to go, you know, margin top 3. And then here with Apple and all these things, I'm going to give that a margin as well. I'm going to say, you know, make that a margin top of 8. And there we go. So, you know, there's my margin for all of that. And in fact, that's probably a bad way to do it. What I'm going to do is actually group these in their own div tag. And then I'm going to highlight all of this stuff and hit Alt or Option on if you're on a Mac and just move it, right? Just move it up between these two div tags. And then here I'm going to put a class in there. And I'm going to put, you know, margin top 5. So there you go. So now I've got some margin, you know, pushing this away here. Now I can't really see my input box, right? So another thing I need over here is I need a border. So I'm just going to type border. And now I've got a border. And I want the border to be a color. So I'm going to make that border blue. And I'm going to make it a strength of 500. And now I've got a blue box 500. I'm also going to get rid of this background green because I just hate the look of it now. It's making everything ugly. And you know, frankly speaking as well, I want to get rid of pretty much all these colors. So I'm going to put here margin top 5 just to give that box some space. And we're going to call this one, we're going to put it here as we're going to put placeholder. And it's going to say, you know, enter name, enter name. Or enter stock name, right? So let's put that here, stock name. Now when I save that and I come back here, you'll see it says enter stock name. If I type Microsoft, right, it types Microsoft, but if I haven't typed anything, it says enter stock name. And what's cool about this is now I don't have to put a title, right, to say enter stock name, then a box. It's just, it cleans everything up. So enter stock name, right? This is where you can now input something and have it do what you want to do. And the other thing I want to do here as well is I want to put another input, and I'm going to put this enter stock price. And this is what's going to allow me to enter the stock price. So here's stock name, stock price. Really cool, right? The other thing is I can change the size of this to see how it would look on a mobile phone. Like for example, you know, let me log into CryptoWizards quick. Okay, like when you're on CryptoWizards, for example, one of the things that I wanted to make sure of is, you know, everything is pretty much usable by mobile phone, right? So you can do everything by phone. So the whole idea, like if I go to this machine learning tool, is I can scroll this and it changes depending on whether I'm on mobile or whether I'm on desktop. If you want me to do some videos on how to do that, right? How to have it work so that like it's working on both really well, I can do that for you. That's no problem. So let's go back here. We can close that nodes window. I'm going to close CryptoWizards as well. So here's where I'd enter the stock price. And then now what I want is I want a button. And the way I'm going to do that, actually, I'm going to call something button, yeah, like so. And I'm going to have the button say add stock. Right, so now I've got add stock. Now I don't like this because for some reason this button is now in line with, you know, everything else that's going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a class in here and I'm going to call this block. And now it's put it as its own whole row. It's put it like it's a div tag, basically. And I want this to, you know, be MX auto. Hopefully that's worked. Yep, so now it's in the middle. And I want to put it a margin top of 5. And you can see I'm just constantly testing everything I'm doing. I'm going to call it, you know, I'm going to give it a border actually here. And I'm going to give it padding in the up and down. So padding on the y-axis of 3. And I'm going to give it padding on the x-axis of, say, 5. So now I've got a button. So it doesn't do anything, but it's a button. Also want to give this some styling. Let's call it text blue 700. So now it's a bit too blue. Let's make it like 500. Text blue 500. And I also want the border to be, you know, something like border blue. Let's make it 700. There you go. Again, I don't really like that, so make it 500. So again, I'm quite picky with the look of things, and I spend a lot of time on this just because I'm really just ridiculous with this stuff. So here where I put rounded rounds the corners of these. So this looks like a real button. The only thing is, it's not very interactive now. Like, yeah, the you know, the little dude here shows up, you know, the little hand. I'm pointing at my screen because I'm clearly an old man. You know, it's showing here, but I'm not really happy. I'm not really happy with this effect on here. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to hit enter here just to give myself some more space. And I'm going to hit enter again. Again, this is just to give myself some space here to work with around using Tailwind. So what I want to do here as well, and this by the way is the problem with Tailwind, like your text can get really long, but again, I just prefer it. It's a trade-off I prefer. So here I'm going to put hover and colon. And what this means is, what do I want this thing to do when I hover over it? So if I put hover, I want the background to be blue, 500. And I want, again, when you hover, I want the text to be, say, white. So now what happens here is when I hover on it, it does this, right? And so that's actually really cool. I like that. That'll do just fine. And in fact, let's have when it's not hovered, let's have the background as, I don't know, let's have it as blue. Let's have it as like blue 100. Just so it looks like a button. There you go. Boom. That's fine. Whatever. Let's also make the button stand out. So let's give it a shadow. And now the button's standing out, right? So here we go. Now, if I enter a name and I enter a price and I hit add stock, nothing happens. Because we've not done any programming on the JavaScript side, and we need to do that. We need to have it, you know, give us our stock now. So let's do this. Let's get rid of these backgrounds because they're really ugly. And I like to feel, like when I'm designing and developing, I like to feel what's going on, if you see what I mean. And if you can relate to me, put it in the comments, like tell me. You know, I don't work much with other people directly doing this. I am curious to know, you know, if my experience doing these things is unique, or I'm pretty sure it's not, if everyone, you know, is experiencing the same thing. Let's get rid of the background here, background red, and let's get rid of, you know, this background indigo as well. So here we are. And the other thing here actually is I want this to be text bold. So now I've got, you know, did that go bold? I have no idea. I don't know why. I don't know why I swallowed a fly. I'm going to change this to a div tag number 1, so it's not h1. And let's see how this looks. So let me refresh. And now I'm going to fight with it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go, you know, text large. Now it's large. That's good. And if I remove the text bold, I don't think the text bold, maybe it's something like font bold. Sorry, this is not very helpful for you. There we go, font bold, that's better. So stock list, and here's your list of stocks. And here I want this to be something like text gray, and I want it to be like 200, right? So just, no, 200 is too dark, too light. Let's put it as 500. Here's your list of stocks. So that looks, that looks much neater. And, here I'm going to keep this table as it is. The background I'm going to take away, this yellow background. And the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to call this margin Y1 so that each one of the rows that renders out has a bit of space. That's fine. I'm good with that. And in fact, let's make the stock name bold as well. So what I can do here is I can put in what's called a span tag. So it won't be like a div. It'll be in the same line as it is here. And I can put in a class and put that, font bold. And now I've got the stocks in bold. And I can do the same thing here for the price, right? So I want the price to be bold as well. I'm going to put that in here. By the way, none of this video is planned. This is completely just live and random, what I'm doing here. So now we're building an app. This looks cool. Like, I'm happy with this. The other thing I want to do actually is I want to put in what's called a horizontal row below these here. And I want to give that a class as well. I'm going to call that, margin top 5. And by the way, you could just put a div tag in with a border top. It would do the same thing. In fact, I'm going to put that as margin Y because I want it up and down. Yeah, that's not going to work for me actually. Let's put margin bottom 3. This is why I love Tailwind, by the way. Look at how much control I have. Look how much control I have without having to write CSS. Like, this is brilliant, right? It's good enough for sure. I like this. I like this. This is cool. In fact, I want another horizontal row, and I want it here. Okay. So now let's get serious. Let's get serious about what we're actually doing to go and, actually insert the stocks into this here. So now let's get serious about some code. So what I want to do is I want to create an area here called methods. And methods is going to be an object. This is where all your functions are going to go. Pretty much all of them, right? View, there's a lot more to it, but we're going to put our function in here. We're going to tell it what we want it to do. And so the method I'm going to think of here is going to be called add stock, right? That's going to be our function. And we're going to call this function from up here. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put by the button, I'm going to put whenever a click happens, and there's different, event triggers you can think of, click or update or change, if it's changed, do something. But this is a button, so it's going to be tapped or clicked, right? So on click, add stock. And if it's on mobile phone, just keep it as click. Your mobile phone knows that a tap is a click. So click is click, it's never tap, I don't think anyway. Add stock, and there we go. So that's going to call this function that we add down here. So what happens when I click add stock? Nothing. But if I put, say, alert here, hey wizard, hello wizard instead of hello world, add stock, hey wizard. Now, if you really want to, get better here in terms of like debugging and stuff, you're going to be wanting to print stuff out all the time. So to do that, we use console log. And I'm going to call this hey wizard. And because you're using Chrome over here, hit F12 and click on console. Refresh the page just to neaten everything up. And when I click add stock, it says hey wizard. So now I can use this for debugging, right? I can, like, if I don't know why something's not working in code, I'll put a bunch of console logs in and see which one works, because I'm rubbish. Clearly I'm rubbish, but this is what works for me. This is how I've got by. So this is how you want to do it, right? So now I've got hey wizard, but I don't want it to do hey wizard. What I wanted to do is add a stock, and I wanted to add, whatever the stock is that I type in the input. So the first thing I want to do, right, is I want to create, after stock list over here, I want to create a bunch of, and it could be before, it doesn't matter, things here. I'm going to call it name. I'm going to call it S name. Stock for stock name, and this is going to be set to undefined. Normally I would use null, but I saw some guy on YouTube saying don't do that, so I'm going to test this out. So here I'm going to use price, and this is also going to be undefined. So what this means is when the page renders, there will be nothing in this box for stock or price. Let's hit save and just see what that does. Normally I put null, but this is me testing something I've learned out for the first time live. Okay, good, seems to be working. So what I want to do here is anytime this input changes, I want it to change this variable for me. And then I'm going to access this variable when the stock runs. So what I want to do here, so the input, I'm going to put in here something called vModel. So again, if I want to access stuff down here, either I have to use these curly braces or I have to use a v dash something, right? That's how I access stuff down here. So the view model here, I don't know what I've just gone and done there. Sorry. Let me just hit save. What is it saying? With one error. I don't know what I just, oh, vModel, because I didn't put anything in here, I think. So vModel here, I'm going to put s name because this is the input for the name. So let's hit save there. That's working now. And then I also want to do vModel here on this input for s price. And let me show you that that actually does make a difference. So, here what I'm going to do is I'm on the add stock, I'm going to put console.log s name, but here's something you need to realize. Whenever you're in the script here and you want to access stuff which is in the script, in these different things, you need to put this, right? In React, I think it's self, or Python, it's definitely self. If you're building a class in Python, you have to put self, dot. So anytime you want to do that, you have to put this, okay, this name. I could do it another way because this is local. I could say, let s name equal to this dot s name. If I was too lazy, I didn't want to put self, or I'm going to put it a lot in the code and I don't want to keep writing this. But this is fine. S name, I want to console log that, and I want to console log s price. So what I'm going to do at the moment here is I'm going to type in a name. So let's put this as Google, and let's put the price as 900 or whatever. Add stock. There's the name. There's the price. If I put this as 901, add stock, Goog 901. But it hasn't added the stock for me. You're like, Sean, just get on with it. Like, come on, man. Just add the freaking price. Come on. Well, I'm going to do that now. So the way that I'm going to add the price here is I'm going to get rid of this console log. And there's a JavaScript thing here where you can push an object into an array. So the first thing I'm going to do here is going to say, all right, let stock equal to this object. So we're going to create an object called stock, just like we did up here. Right, we're going to create an object. So I'm going to say let stock equal to, name, because that's the structure for our stocks. And the name of the stock is going to be this dot s name. So now we're not typing it manually. We're accessing it like this, comma, price is going to be equal to this dot price. Whoops. So now I've got an object. Let's console log that object just to make sure that's working. So stock. And let's have a look at what that looks like. So we had Google and we had it at the price of 900, add stock. And here's my object, and I can click on it and see it's Google, price is undefined. Why is price undefined? I have no idea. That doesn't make sense. So S price, did I put S price here? I did. Let me try something here and see if this null makes a difference. Let's have a look here. So if I refresh this, Google 900, add. Price still says it's undefined. Okay, so it's not to do with that. Welcome to the world of debugging. So price is equal to this dot S price. Sorry, that was probably really cringeful for you to watch. Here we go. Name, price, S price. This, again, it's the real world. This is how it works, right? So I've done this 1,000 times, and here I'm still like battling with stuff. So Google price 900, and there you go. So now we've got that. Now we want to take that object and push it into our array of stock lists. So all I'm going to do here to do that is I'm going to go stock list dot push, and I'm going to call that stock, which is our object. So I don't need to console log everything now, because look what's going to happen. 900 and hit add stock. Oh wait, stock list is not defined. See, this is what you need to get. This is what you need to do, right? This dot stock list. Here I am being really cocky about it and getting everything wrong. So Goog and 900. So again, I had to put this, this stock list, because it's up here. I needed to access it, right? Add stock. There it is, Goog. Let's do another one. Yo, wizard stock. What should that be worth? Wizards. Wizards. Let's put 10,000 because we're the crypto wizards. Here we go. So here we go. Here is your app. This is how you can add your stocks or whatever you want to do or interact with your app, right? I'm showing you all the useful tricks here. Now, what I haven't shown you yet is how to import components. So I'm going to do that very quickly. Here, I'm going to add a component. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it wizard component. No, I'm just going to call it wizard.view. That's fine. And in wizard.view, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to put a template, and I'm just going to close that template. And we need a div in between that template, so div. And then I need a script area, and I could have a style area, except I can't be bothered because I don't need it. I'm using a lot of Tailwind right now. And I'm going to put export default here. And then I'm going to put data, same thing we did before. And there are boilerplates, by the way, that will just do this for you, but I actually think for you it's easier if I type everything out. So here I'm just going to put something like, you know, I am a wizard. Yo, I'm a wizard. I'm a stock wizard today. I'm a stock wizard, so you can really have fun with this. So I'm going to go back here, and now I want to get that component I've created into this, right? I want to get my component here into this app, and I want to put it at the bottom. So I'm going to go here to the bottom. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put import. I'm going to call this wizard from, and then in here I'm going to put curly thing components, and it's called wizard, like such. And in here, I'm going to register the component as well. So I'm going to call this component. I think it's components. This is called wizard. I've probably made a mistake here somewhere. Let me just check it quick. Let me just check this component. Cannot find module components. Sorry, that probably needs to be a /. There we go. That's better. So, you know, there's some nuances here you just have to figure out and learn as you go, right? But here we go. So add stock, and then here I'm going to call this wizard. So now I'm able to bring wizard in as an HTML tag. Now check this out. I am a stock wizard. So now you can build your app in different components and bring those components. You can import components into components into components. And so this is a really neat way to structure your code, right? You don't want loads of code like this massive app. You want it broken down into sections, and you want to import those sections into this. Now the cool thing about this, and actually here I'm going to put a class in here of margin top, 5. The cool thing about this, here I'm adding blank stocks. So here, actually, let's put a check in there so that we can't actually go and do that. So what I want to do here is I want to say, if, let's put this.s name is not equal to 0, and this.s price not equal to 0, then, then and only then do we want to return this. Else, we're going to do an alert. And the alert's going to say, dude, add the details. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So now when I go to add a stock, it's still letting me do it. Let's see here, undefined, and is not equal to undefined. Maybe that'll work. If I put this as null, then maybe that would have worked. I'm experimenting here with some new stuff. There you go, dude, add the details, right? Oh, shoot, okay, I need to add some details. So Microsoft and 900. And then you can add checks like, this has to be a number, and you can add all that JavaScript in, etc. If I don't add a number, it's still adding it. So, and this dot price is not equal to 0. So I think that's what we need to do. So Microsoft, add stock. No, it's still letting me add the price. This price, this dot price. Let me just console log this quickly. Console.log this dot price. right? So let's put in Microsoft again, add stock. This dot price is undefined. Yeah, is not equal to undefined. So the name must not be undefined and the price must not be undefined, right? So that's working. And then here, if I do this, yes, it does work. I don't know what I did earlier. Clearly I messed something up. So here we go. This is working absolutely fine. And we can also comment this stuff, right? So this is check and input stock, right? Comment your code. When I'm building this for real, I comment everything I do. Like literally, I comment absolutely everything I do. That's how I build stuff. So I am a stock wizard, yay, and this is all awesome and that's working. But you can also pass things to the children, so to this wizard. And there's a way to do that. So in my wizard component here, I'm very quickly going to put something called props. And this is where you can pass a variable from a parent to a child component. You can even pass a variable from a child back to a parent. That's using something called emit. So let's name the variable that we want to appear here by wizard. And instead of it's saying wizard, we're going to say I am a stock, and we're going to pass in something from down here, right? So I am a stock. It could be wizard. It could be anything. So let's just call this I am a stock. Let's call this variable something like label or something like that. So let's put in here. Let's just call it text label. Right, that's what it's going to relate to. So text label, and I'm going to put it in camel casing like that. And I'm going to pass that here. Now, when we go to run this, so if I go back to my application and I hit refresh, and you see here, it just says I'm a stock. Right, if I put in MSFT and, whatever price, it adds that stock, but it doesn't say anything here. It doesn't say I'm a stock wizard. It doesn't say I am a stock, name label or text label or anything like that. So I need to tell it what label I wanted to pass in here. And I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go back here and let's say, so when we put the component in here, here's the wizard component, right? And remember, we added it in. We can actually say, okay, and this is how we create binding. So what we do is we bind this and we say, take text dash label. This is the correct syntax, right? So that here you don't do the camel casing, you put a dash in between the camel casing. And text label, and this is going to be equal to, right now I'm going to go Sean, right? I'm just going to put my name. I'm going to put that for now just because it's fun. Why not? Get to put my name on this. And then we're going to make it actually say the stock. So here it's saying text label, pass text label to here in this component, and then spit it out. So this is the magic. This is the magic of reusable components. Because now I can have, I can have 3 wizards if I want to, right? I can have Sean, I can have, Sarah, I can have, Joe, whatever you want to do, right? So now this is the beauty of having reusable components. You can create a button and then have that component used as a button everywhere. It's, honestly, and how you structure it is up to you. Now look at this. I'm a stock Sean, I'm a stock Sarah, I'm a stock Joe. Great, that worked. Now I don't want these random names here, and I don't want my own name. What I want to do is I want to pass the stock name here. So here we're going to use S name instead of Sean. So I'm a stock S name. Now notice I don't need to put this .s name, and I don't need to do that because it knows to reference S name from down here, from what it's returning in the data. So only when I'm using it within the code here that I need to put the word this. So now when I go here, it doesn't say anything, but if I add in, Google, look there, Google, it just does it automatically, AAPL. And we can pass the data back, right? So you can run a function here and you do what's called passing back and emit. And there's a lot of blog posts online about how to do emit, etc. I think this video is long enough. But this is how I'm building apps, right? I know it's been a long video, and I think for those of you who wanted the video, probably time extremely well spent, because you can actually see in like one video how this is all getting put together. But you can write JavaScript, you can go into here, you can write your functions, right? You can go into this method, for example, you can put methods. And you can write a method and a function. This could be function 1, you know, whatever you're going to make that. This could be, you know, function 2. You could call it whatever you want, right? And so you can do that. You can have all these functions and you can call them like we did from up here. And you can have a function call another function. Just remember that this keyword, right? This is what's going to really frustrate everyone. They're going to be like, why isn't this working? And then you realize, oh, it's because I didn't put this in front of it. So this is how you can build apps. If you like this, if you found it helpful, I don't know, just say so. Just tell me you did. That's how I know. That's how I know what is useful here and what is not. I'm really enjoying making the videos at the moment. So, you know, happy to make videos like this. Let me know what questions you have, if any. Until the next time, take care and talk soon.